Hello. Thanks for taking the time to watch this presentation and to learn more about our work in Ukraine. My name is Adriel. I've been living in Ukraine and volunteering for the 10 Men Project since April of 2022. And I can say, despite the tragedies that come with a conflict of this magnitude, I've been on an incredible journey with God, and I'd like to share a little bit of that experience with you. In the early hours on February 24, 2022, after 9 years of war, Russia began an all-out ground invasion of Ukraine. Once this began to hit the networks, the leadership of Armada Network and the American Pastors Networks got onto emergency group phone calls and began brainstorming and trying to figure out how do we quickly and efficiently form a response to this invasion. During one of these phone calls, the concept of the 10 Men Project was born. Since both networks have been involved in Ukraine for over 30 years, they decided that one of the best ways that they could help would be to provide material and financial support directly to Ukrainian pastors to in turn empower them to use their networks of contacts to reach some of the most affected areas of Ukraine. So what is the 10 Men Project and how does it work? Using the media networks of both organizations, we began to recruit teams of 10 men. The idea was that each volunteer would raise $10,000 plus travel expenses. Then they would travel to Ukraine with these funds and hand deliver them to Ukrainian pastors in our network. The reason for $10,000 is that this is the amount that one can cross international borders with. Then for 10 days, these teams serve alongside the Ukrainian church and they provide support to their ministries and they get to share the love of Jesus and the message of salvation to all of those that they come in contact with. So who are our volunteers? They come from all walks of life, all different backgrounds and types of churches, but one thing they have in common is that they're spirit-filled and they are feeling led to commit themselves to this work and to support Ukrainian churches and pastors in their ministries. Here are some of the teams that made the trip at the very beginning of the invasion, and they were very successful in bringing humanitarian aid in from Romania, as well as using funds to purchase aid through local wholesalers inside Ukraine. After our teams began making regular trips to Ukraine, we were given special status by some of the airlines, which in turn allowed each volunteer to carry 7 to 10 cases full of trauma supplies, and this resulted in us being able to make a much greater impact with those trips. In February of 2023, while compiling our reports for 2022, this is what our numbers showed us. By bringing funds directly to a trusted network of pastors and allowing them to leverage their local networks of connections to get the best deals on fuel, vehicle repairs, bulk food, and medicine, they were able to distribute over $800,000 worth of humanitarian aid and refugee support and over $1.2 million worth of critical medical supplies, resulting in an approximate return of 750%. For us, this was simply further validation that this concept works extremely well, and in order to be good stewards of what God has given us, we believe that it's imperative that we work to scale this program. So what are some of the project objectives? Number one is to share the message of salvation and be the hands and feet of Jesus. Next is to continue to raise teams of volunteers that deliver funds to pastors in Ukraine. Third, to continue to scale our food warehousing and medical distribution program. Fourth, to continue to provide weekly food distributions for the approximately 70,000 refugees located in the regions we work in. Fifth, continue to acquire medical supplies and pharmaceuticals to deliver to specialty hospitals and burn units. And finally, to continue our medical education initiatives. Pictured are some of the activities that our teams of volunteers have been able to participate in. Here you see some members that are praying for refugees while out on a prayer walk. They were able to participate in children's programs that are specifically for displaced Ukrainian children and pray for them and minister to them. Here we see where team members were able to facilitate a food distribution. This was out in previously occupied villages near the front lines. They were able to preach the message of salvation, pray for many, and some even answered the call and gave their hearts to Jesus. So what are some of the specific issues or needs we are trying to address? Now, keep in mind, these needs can change as this conflict evolves. We are trying to address the lack of basic necessities such as food, drinking water, hygiene items, over-the-counter medications to treat common stomach illnesses and coughs and colds. A lot of the infrastructure has been destroyed, especially in the east of the country. We've been working to address the lack of winter items such as warm clothing, heat sources, water filtration, and power generation options. There's also a continual need for funds to cover our operational overhead, such as fuel and vehicle repairs. And we continue to provide advanced trauma training and basic stop the bleed training for volunteers and public safety personnel as requested. As I mentioned before, we have a food and medical warehousing program. We use this warehouse to receive large shipments. The food shipments get broken down into bulk deliveries out to other villages or down into packets that get distributed through the refugee food program. The medical supplies also get broken down and organized, and then we send these out based on specific requests and needs as well. Here we have volunteers sorting out the medical supplies that they brought into the country. We sort these out based on need. So some of these go into building medical bags for medics out in the field, as well as personal first aid kits for police officers and soldiers. And then we also send specialty equipment to hospitals and burn centers, things like skin grafting blades and other surgical items. Throughout our content, you will see us reference IFAKs, and many people don't know what this is. This is an individual first aid kit, and we distribute these especially to soldiers, police officers, and firefighters and medics that are working out close to the conflict areas. These trauma supplies basically allow them to stabilize a patient long enough to hopefully get them to the operating table as a viable patient. Part of the reason that we began providing trauma training and specialty training was we were seeing that many people would receive a first aid kit or medical supplies, but they didn't necessarily have the knowledge or training base to use them effectively. So we tried to bridge this gap by providing the knowledge and skills that they need to use this equipment and save lives. During this training process, we were able to train and certify 2 Ukrainian medical instructors. They specialize in teaching stop the bleed. This has been extremely valuable in making this program very effective. since they can speak the language and translate the content very well. And they are now able to continue to provide this education without our project oversight if they would need to. We deliver a lot of supplies to villages that have been recently liberated from Russian control, or they are near the front lines and they still face threat from Russian troops. In this work, we see firsthand a lot of the destruction, pain, and tragedy that this conflict has brought to the region, and we ask that you keep our volunteers and partners in prayer as they continue this work. Our local church partners run the food distribution programs for the internally displaced refugees. They are able to use this program to preach the gospel, pray over these refugees, and provide both spiritual and physical nourishment for these people. So, what does the future look like for Ukraine and our project's involvement here? We don't know when this war is going to end, but regardless of when it does, there's so much work to be done here. Our networks have been involved here for over 30 years, and we have no intention of letting this evil win. The Ukrainian church continues to see unprecedented growth, and we want to be here to support the pastors through this and be a part of this amazing work. So how can you help? Maybe God has been speaking to you. One way is to partner with us financially. You can do that through our website, and that can be set up as a one-time donation or a monthly contribution. This helps us with operational costs and to help keep things rolling here on the ground. Another way would be to volunteer or raise a team of volunteers from your community and raise these funds and go to Ukraine yourself. Be a part of this ministry and see where God can take you on this journey. You can follow our social media accounts, and we ask if you can to share this content with your networks. This helps spread the word about what we're doing here. And lastly, please continue to pray for the work here in Ukraine. So here are some things you can pray about specifically. Pray that God would raise up more volunteers, men of faith filled with His Spirit, that would catch the vision to come be a part of His work here in Ukraine. Pray for the safety of our volunteers and church partners. Pray for a path to peace and stability for the region. And please continue to pray for our monthly operating needs. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation. I hope that it was able to minister to you in some way. Please take the time to check out the Telegram update channel on the next slide. That's going to be on the right. This is where you can find the links to all of our other media pages, as well as receive updates on the work here. And if you feel led to donate to this work, you can scan the QR code on the left, and this will help you navigate through the donation process. Thank you, and may God bless you.
I just want to speak the name of Jesus over every heart and every mind, 'cause I know there is peace within your presence. I speak Jesus.
I just want to speak the name of Jesus till every dark addiction starts to break. Your name is power.